Defending a nation isn't some walk in the park. It's serious business. It takes massive strength, strict discipline, and total commitment. The moment a naval warship leaves the port, every crew member has to be on high alert, working around the clock to keep that beast running smooth and ready for any action that might pop off. On destroyers and other warships, sailors barely get a break. They're grinding almost all day, making sure everything stays in check. But when they finally get a few hours to breathe, what do they do to unwind? Let's dive in and see how these tough Navy sailors blow off steam when the pressure eases up, even if just for a moment. Everyone knows being a US Navy sailor isn't for the faint of heart. It means spending long stretches of time isolated at sea, far away from family and friends. From the start, they're trained to handle all the challenges that come with the job. Rough waves, endless routines, and pure mental toughness. They learn early on that life at sea comes with danger. Bad weather, high tides, the risk of drowning, and even shipwrecks. It's part of their world, and their training is meant to prepare them for whatever chaos comes their way. Now, living on a warship? That's a whole different story. Forget comfort, it's tight, loud, and there's almost zero privacy. Sleeping quarters are small and space is shared, so everyone has to adapt fast or lose their mind. Usually, a sailor's routine runs on a rotation, 4 hours of work, 8 hours of rest. But don't get it twisted. Depending on their department, some sailors work way more than that. Over 40 hours a week is normal out at sea, and exhaustion is just part of the grind. To stop burnout, the Navy rotates sailors through different departments during deployment. That way, everyone stays sharp and ready for anything that might go down. But even when they're supposed to have downtime, it's rarely true rest. Most use that time to handle unfinished chores, washing clothes, cleaning their bunks, or catching up on basic maintenance. It's all part of keeping the ship running like clockwork. And just when things might slow down, the action kicks back up again. One minute they're doing laundry, the next they're on deck helping with a mid-sea supply transfer or watching jets launch off the flight deck. On those kinds of days, the 8 hours of rest they're supposed to get shrink down to maybe 3, if they're lucky. For sailors, time isn't divided like it is for everyone else. There's no weekend at sea, no lazy Sunday morning. Their work week starts on a Thursday, the day their ship sets sail, and keeps looping non-stop until they return home. Every day just blends into the next. That's probably why many sailors lose track of what day it even is. It's all waves, metal, and duty. Over time, the Navy has tried to make things a bit more comfortable for its sailors out there. Some ships even have Starbucks spots on board now, because when alcohol's off the table, caffeine becomes the next best friend. A hot cup of coffee can feel like gold when you're running on fumes and ocean air. But the real fun begins with one of their favorite traditions, the Steel Beach Picnic. These legendary events bring every sailor out onto the deck to kick back, eat, and vibe under the open sky. Imagine over 5,000 sailors from an aircraft carrier all gathering to relax, grill food, and have a good time right on the steel deck. That's the beach part. Videos and photos from these picnics have made even folks on land jealous. It's that rare moment of joy in a place where life is all discipline and duty. Steel Beach picnics weren't always about fun, though. They grew out of necessity, turning into a long-standing Navy tradition that gives these sailors a tiny piece of normal life while floating in the middle of nowhere. The whole Steel Beach tradition actually traces back to the British Navy. It started with an old-school command called All Hands to Bathe. Back then, their warships were made of wood, with barely any setup for proper hygiene. So, when the captain shouted that order, it meant every sailor had to dive straight into the open sea to wash up. Wild, right? Today's warships are loaded with showers and all the essentials, so jumping into the ocean isn't about hygiene anymore. It's just pure fun, even though it can still be pretty risky. On massive aircraft carriers, the deck sits about 60 feet above sea level, way too high for a safe jump. So, to keep things chill and safe, the crew lowers the hangar bay elevators to about 30 feet. That's the sweet spot for a good, safe leap into the deep blue. Sometimes it's even used as part of training, turning what used to be a necessity into an adrenaline-filled tradition that never gets old. But Steel Beach picnics aren't just about splashing around. They're all about keeping morale sky high. Being stuck inside a ship for months with no sunlight can mess with anyone's head. So when sailors finally get to step onto the open deck and feel that warm sunlight hitting their faces, it's like freedom. The flight deck. which can stretch across 4 to 5 acres, suddenly feels packed once every single sailor comes out to relax, laugh, and just enjoy being human again. These picnics come loaded with everything: games, music, food, and pure vibes. You'll catch groups playing cards, chess, checkers, football, basketball, volleyball, or jump rope. Some just kick back with a book or lay out soaking up that sunshine. And of course, what's a picnic without good food? The ship's head chef takes charge, deciding what gets grilled or cooked right there on the deck. The smell alone is enough to make everyone's mouth water. Ice-cold drinks are always around too, perfect for cooling off after all that fun in the blazing sun. Now, things go down a bit differently on submarines. Unlike those huge carriers, submarines are tighter and have curved surfaces, so there's no open deck for lounging or playing ball. That means sailors on board have one main way to unwind: jumping straight into the ocean. After a refreshing dip, they climb back aboard to enjoy a hot meal waiting for them. It's simple, but satisfying. During downtime, many sailors find other ways to stay busy. Some plug in their gaming consoles and dive into online matches of Warcraft or Dungeons and Dragons with shipmates, or even play with loved ones back home through the internet. You'll also see checkers, dominoes, and card games going strong on nearly every deck table. But the creativity doesn't stop there. Some sailors use their breaks to read, write, sing, or dance. It's their way to stay sane and keep spirits high. Way back in the mid-1800s, a group called the American Seamen's Friend Society started sending books to ships, hoping to boost morale and keep sailors connected to something meaningful. That spark of creativity still lives on today. Music has always been part of ship life too. Songs like old-school sea shanties keep the crew's energy alive, especially when they sing together after long shifts. Those who can play instruments bring out guitars, harmonicas, or makeshift drums to create their own little concerts at sea. It's all heart and soul. And then there are the ship's artists, the ones who see beauty even in the middle of the ocean. Some paint using whatever materials they can find, while others carve small wooden pieces from spare parts of the vessel. The art they create depends entirely on their skill and imagination, transforming the steel surroundings into something alive with creativity. Every piece tells a story. A small piece of peace in the middle of the waves. Every US Navy sailor earns the right to take a break. It's part of the deal. Each sailor racks up 30 paid vacation days every year, giving them a chance to step off the ship and breathe some real air. But before that happens, there's a bit of red tape to cut through. They've got to fill out a form called a chit, basically a leave request, and then get it approved and signed off by their chain of command. Once that's done, the personnel department handles the paperwork, and boom, they're cleared to go on leave. Sometimes, though, sailors get creative with their time off. If someone hasn't earned enough leave days yet but really needs a break, they can borrow from their future leave, something sailors call going in the hole. It's not exactly encouraged, but every now and then it still happens. Besides official leave, sailors also get what's known as liberty calls. During weekends or holidays, crew members can spend up to 72 hours off the ship, as long as they stay within a certain distance from the vessel's location. Depending on the ship, that local area limit could be anywhere from 50 miles to as far as 400 miles. But here's the catch. They've got to be able to rush back if the ship calls them in, no excuses. And there's no mixing leave and liberty at the same time. It's one or the other. One special type of liberty is called Cinderella liberty. That's when sailors are free to head out for a few hours, but must be back on the ship by a set curfew, just like Cinderella at midnight. For new recruits in training, things are even stricter. Sailors who've been in A school for about 3 weeks can only enjoy on-base liberty, and even then there's a tight curfew to follow. Once they hit week 4, they start earning off-base liberty, but still under supervision and time limits. Everything depends on what their commanding officer decides, so rules can change based on the ship, the mission, or even the sailor's rank and behavior. There's no denying it. Joining the US Navy is no easy ride. Before even setting foot on a warship, recruits have to survive 8 grueling weeks of boot camp, packed with drills, training, and non-stop discipline. And that's just the beginning. Once they make it through and get stationed on a ship, the real challenge starts. Learning the ropes of daily Navy life while staying sharp, focused, and ready for anything the ocean throws their way. Still, through all the pressure, these sailors know when to take a breather. Whether it's a short liberty call or a long-awaited leave, those rare moments of freedom remind them what they're fighting for, and give them just enough time to recharge before diving back into the endless rhythm of life at sea. Even when they're back from leave, sailors quickly slip right into the rhythm of ship life again. It's like flipping a switch. The sea doesn't wait for anyone, and neither does the mission. Once the engines roar and the ship starts slicing through the waves, it's all hands on deck again. Every sailor, from the highest-ranking officer to the newest recruit, plays a part in keeping the ship running like a well-oiled machine. But it's not all serious business every minute of the day. Even at sea, sailors find small ways to keep their spirits high. Some throw mini competitions to test their strength or speed, while others gather for movie nights under the stars on the deck. The ocean breeze, the faint hum of the ship, and the sight of the endless horizon. It's a mix of peace and power that only sailors truly understand. Communication with loved ones back home has also become a lifeline for sailors. Thanks to satellite connections, emails, and video calls, they can check in with family, even if it's just for a few minutes. Those short conversations mean the world when you're thousands of miles away from home. It gives them a reminder of what's waiting for them when they finally dock again. Of course, not every day is smooth sailing. Long deployments, sleepless nights, and unpredictable weather can push anyone to their limit. But that's where the bond between sailors really shines. They've got each other's backs through storms, rough waters, and endless shifts. Friendships forged at sea tend to last a lifetime because only they know what it's like to face the chaos together and come out stronger. During calmer stretches of deployment, the crew sometimes gets creative with downtime. Talent shows, karaoke nights, or deck barbecues pop up out of nowhere. Some sailors even film funny skits or mini-documentaries about life on board. It's their way of showing the world that even in a tough environment, laughter and brotherhood still thrive. The Navy has made efforts to keep morale up too. On longer missions, ships might get surprise visits from performers or musicians flown in for quick shows. Those moments break the routine and remind everyone that the world hasn't forgotten them out there on the open water. And let's not forget the traditions that keep Navy culture alive. Ceremonies like crossing the line, celebrating when a ship crosses the equator, turn into unforgettable events. There's laughter, jokes, and a lot of harmless fun that helps new sailors feel like they're truly part of something bigger than themselves. At the end of the day, life in the Navy is about balance, discipline and chaos, duty and freedom, order and laughter. Each day at sea writes a new story, one filled with grit, pride, and the unshakable will to serve. These sailors might be far from home, but every sunrise over the water reminds them they're part of something powerful, a legacy built on courage, teamwork, and the endless rhythm of the waves. When deployment finally ends, the moment a Navy ship pulls back into port is pure magic. You can almost feel the energy in the air, excitement, relief, and pride all mixed together. Families line up along the docks, waving flags, holding signs, and searching for familiar faces among the thousands in uniform. It's emotional every single time. After months of separation, that first hug hits harder than words can describe. It's the kind of reunion that makes all the tough days at sea worth it. But even after they're back on land, the sailor mindset doesn't just switch off. Discipline sticks with them. It's built into who they are. Whether it's keeping things neat, staying punctual, or helping others, the habits from ship life follow them everywhere. Many sailors use their shore time to recharge, travel, or learn something new before the next deployment begins. But deep down, most of them still miss the rhythm of the ocean, the quiet moments at sunrise, and the bond that only comes from living shoulder to shoulder with their crew. Some sailors take this time to give back to their communities. You'll see them volunteering at schools, veterans centers, or charity events, still serving just on land. They share stories, offer mentorship, and remind people what real dedication looks like. Their sense of purpose never fades, it just transforms. For others, returning home means reconnecting with the world they've missed. Good food, laughter, and long talks that don't end with a shift alarm. Still, part of them always looks back at the sea, missing the feeling of adventure that only the Navy brings. It's that constant balance between peace and motion, between home and duty. And while life on the water might sound like endless work, it also builds something deeper: resilience. Every storm faced, every sleepless night, every tough mission molds sailors into some of the strongest people out there. They come out of it tougher, sharper, and ready to handle anything life throws their way. Even years after retiring, many Navy veterans still say they'd do it all again in a heartbeat. They talk about the pride of wearing the uniform, the rush of seeing the world from a ship's deck, and the unbreakable bond with their shipmates. It's more than just a job. It's a lifestyle, a legacy, and a family built through sweat, salt, and steel. The Navy's traditions, from steel beach picnics to liberty calls, from night watches to homecomings, all tell one story. A story of people who give everything for something bigger than themselves. Every mission, every wave, every dawn at sea carries that same spirit of courage and brotherhood. Because at the end of the day, being a sailor isn't just about surviving the ocean, it's about mastering it. It's about standing tall no matter the storm, finding joy in the smallest moments, and carrying pride in your heart long after the ship returns home. That's the true spirit of the US Navy, strong, relentless, and forever bound by the call of the sea. Even after the ship's back in port and the uniforms are neatly folded away, the sea never really leaves a sailor's soul. It stays with them, in their stories, in their habits, and in that unshakable discipline that never fades. The roar of the engines, the salty air, the sound of the waves slapping against steel, it all becomes part of who they are forever. Every sailor has that moment when they wake up on land and still half expect to feel the ship swaying beneath them. It's like the ocean never truly lets go. Many sailors use their time off duty to grow in new directions. Some go back to school, diving into studies while still balancing their naval duties. Others pick up trades, start businesses, or chase passions they discovered during deployment. That time away from home often teaches them what really matters, and once they're back, they grab life by the horns and make every second count. But even with all the new experiences, the call of the sea is hard to ignore. When the next deployment notice comes in, that old spark reignites. Packing up again, saying goodbye, and stepping onto the deck feels like returning to a second home. The ship may change, the crew may be different, but the mission and the pride stay the same. Each departure carries that same mix of excitement and nerves. It's a cycle every sailor knows by heart. During their careers, sailors see things most people never will. Sunsets over the Indian Ocean, storms that shake the sky, and quiet nights where the stars stretch endlessly across the black water. Those moments are raw, humbling, and unforgettable. They remind every sailor why they serve, because beyond the long hours and constant grind, there's a purpose that runs deeper than the tides. And that bond with fellow sailors, it never breaks. Even years later, they stay connected, checking in, swapping stories, and laughing about the wild things that happened on deployment. They may come from different cities, different backgrounds, but at sea, rank and race don't matter. It's all about trust, loyalty, and teamwork. Once you've stood side by side on deck through storms and chaos, you're family for life. The Navy's legacy is built on those shared experiences: sacrifice, courage, and unity. Every generation of sailors adds to that story, passing down lessons, jokes, and wisdom that keep the spirit alive. The traditions, the songs, the ceremonies, they all remind sailors where they came from and what they stand for. So even when a sailor finally hangs up the uniform for good, a part of that Navy fire always burns inside. They carry the discipline, the pride, and the lessons learned on the open sea into everything they do afterward. Because being a sailor isn't just a chapter, it's a whole identity. And somewhere far beyond the shore, the ocean waits, endless, powerful, and calling them back again. That's the truth about Navy life. It's not just a job, it's a lifelong connection between a person and the sea itself. Long after their service ends, the stories of sailors continue to echo through time. You can hear them in the quiet corners of old ports, in the laughter at veteran gatherings, or in the calm voices of those who've seen the world from the deck of a warship. Each sailor carries memories that could fill entire books, tales of danger, friendship, and moments that changed them forever. Some talk about the thrill of cutting through massive waves under a burning sunset, while others remember the silence of long nights when the sea stretched endlessly in every direction. That life leaves a mark, one that shapes everything afterward. Even when they're back on land, many sailors still live by the code they learned at sea: stay sharp, stay loyal, and never give up. Those values don't fade. They become part of their DNA, and it shows in how they handle life's challenges. When others panic, sailors stay calm. When things get rough, they push through. Because once you face down storms in the middle of nowhere, nothing on land feels too hard. Many former sailors also find new ways to serve once they leave the Navy. Some join humanitarian missions or disaster relief teams, using their skills to help people in crisis. Others step into leadership roles, bringing that same Navy discipline and teamwork into business, education, or public service. No matter where they go, their sea-born strength follows. They carry that same confidence that once kept them steady in wild waters. And for those who stay close to the Navy, mentoring the next generation becomes their new mission. They share real-life lessons about resilience, respect, and surviving both the waves and the weight of responsibility. Younger sailors look up to them, not just for their experience, but for the way they carry themselves, with quiet pride and unshakable integrity. Navy life also sparks creativity that doesn't fade with time. Some veterans write books, compose music, or create art inspired by their journeys. Their works capture the emotion, the isolation, and the beauty of life at sea. The constant hum of the engines, the gleam of the ocean under the moonlight, the power of teamwork that keeps a floating city alive. Every creation becomes a tribute to that unique experience of living between the sky and the deep. And for many, the ocean keeps calling, softly but endlessly. Some take up sailing or fishing just to feel that familiar rhythm again, the sway of the waves that once defined their lives. Because no matter how far they go, the sea will always be part of them. It's a bond that never breaks. That's the legacy of the US Navy sailor, a mix of strength, sacrifice, and soul. They don't just serve, they transform. Their stories remind us what true dedication looks like, the kind that doesn't fade when the mission ends but continues with every breath, every memory, and every time the wind carries the scent of salt across the shore. As the years go by, the legends of Navy life keep growing, passed down from one generation of sailors to the next. The stories get told in bars near naval bases, at reunions, or around backyard grills, where laughter and nostalgia mix with the smell of smoke and salt in the air. Every tale, whether wild or heartbreaking, carries that same spark of pride, the kind that only comes from serving on the open sea. Older sailors love to tell the newcomers, "The sea doesn't remember your name, but you'll never forget hers." And it's true. Once you've served on the water, the ocean becomes a part of your story forever. It's not just the places they've been or the storms they've survived, it's the lessons learned along the way. Lessons about courage when things get tough, about teamwork when the odds are stacked high, and about holding your head up even when the winds turn against you. Even when sailors move on to civilian life, that discipline stays stitched into everything they do. They still wake up early, still keep things organized, still push themselves to be their best, because that's how life on a ship trained them. They don't wait for things to happen, they make them happen. That's what separates a Navy veteran from the rest. Some find themselves missing the noise, the clang of tools, the radio chatter, the low rumble of the engines that once rocked them to sleep. That sound was home, and it's something no city silence can replace. So they reconnect however they can, visiting old shipmates, joining veteran clubs, or volunteering at Navy events just to feel that sense of belonging again. Once you've been part of a crew that depends on each other for survival, you can't help but crave that same unity for the rest of your life. And that's the beauty of the Navy. It doesn't just build sailors, it builds lifelong bonds. Men and women who may have come from totally different backgrounds end up becoming family through shared struggles and victories. Those friendships outlast the uniforms, the ranks, and even the years apart. When they meet again, it's like no time has passed at all. Some veterans pass their stories down to their kids or grandkids, teaching them about strength, respect, and the importance of standing for something bigger than yourself. For those families, Navy pride becomes a tradition, something carried from one generation to the next. You'll often see them at parades or ceremonies, wearing old caps or jackets, eyes shining with the same pride that once fueled them through endless waves. Because being a sailor never really ends, it just changes shape. The ship may dock, the uniforms may fade, but that fire inside, that unwavering spirit of duty, stays alive forever. The ocean taught them to be fearless, to adapt, and to trust their crew. And those lessons carry them through every challenge that comes their way long after they leave the sea behind. That's the eternal mark of a sailor. The sea might let them go, but it never truly releases them. It lives in their stories, in their strength, and in every heartbeat that still matches the rhythm of the waves. Years after they've stepped off the deck for the last time, many sailors still feel that quiet pull, the rhythm of the waves calling them back. It's not about the uniform anymore, it's about the feeling, the purpose, the pride of once being part of something far bigger than yourself. When they close their eyes, they can still picture the endless horizon, hear the soft hum of the engines, and smell the salt in the air. It's a memory that never fades. Some of them return to the sea in different ways, working at ports, joining maritime companies, or even teaching navigation to the next wave of recruits. For them, sharing knowledge is its own reward. They want new sailors to understand not just the job, but the heart behind it, the discipline, the brotherhood, the resilience that defines every life lived on the ocean. Once a sailor, always a sailor, they say, and they mean every word. Others find peace in simply visiting the coastline, standing there quietly as the tide rolls in, knowing that somewhere out there, ships are moving just like the ones they once served on. It's a reminder that the Navy never truly stops. It just keeps sailing forward with new faces, new missions, and the same unshakable spirit. At reunions, those same sailors light up the room. They tell stories about long deployments, daring rescues, and those rare moments of calm when the sea looked like glass. There's always laughter, about things that seemed impossible back then but now feel like badges of honor. The kind of laughter that comes only from people who've lived through chaos together and made it out stronger. And for every sailor, there's always one story that stays closest to their heart. Their first deployment, their toughest mission, or that unforgettable moment when they watched the sun rise over an ocean so still it looked unreal. Those memories are sacred. They define who they are long after the Navy chapter ends. Some sailors turn those stories into something lasting. Books, documentaries, podcasts, even art. Their creativity gives people on land a glimpse into the powerful, demanding, and deeply emotional world of life at sea. It's not just about warships and orders, it's about humanity, teamwork, and endurance in the face of endless water and endless duty. And when they gather at Navy memorials or watch new recruits take their oaths, something stirs inside them again. A spark of pride that never dies. They see the new generation stepping up, ready to carry the flag forward, and it fills them with hope. Because they know the legacy is safe. The spirit of courage, honor, and loyalty is still alive and thriving. In the end, every sailor leaves behind more than memories. They leave behind a piece of history written across oceans. Their sacrifices, their laughter, their strength. It all becomes part of the Navy's living heartbeat. The ships may change, the technology may evolve, but the essence stays the same. Brave men and women answering the call of the sea, ready to face whatever waits beyond the horizon. That's the truth of the Navy. It's not just a career, it's a calling that lasts a lifetime. As time moves on, the legacy of the Navy doesn't fade, it only grows stronger. Every sailor, whether they served decades ago or just last year, becomes part of a story that stretches across generations. It's a bond that links the past with the present, a living thread that runs through every ship, every port, and every sailor who's ever felt the roll of the sea beneath their feet. The uniforms may change, the ships may evolve, but that pride, that unmistakable sense of belonging, never goes away. You can see it in how veterans carry themselves. There's a certain confidence in their walk, a steady calm in their voice. They've faced storms that would shake most people to their core, yet they still stand tall. They know what it means to lead, to follow, and to trust the person beside them with their life. That kind of experience shapes who they are forever. It's not something you can teach in a classroom or learn from a book. Even years later, many still find ways to stay connected to the Navy family. They mentor young recruits, volunteer at veterans centers, or help organize events for active duty sailors returning home. For them, it's not just about giving back, it's about keeping the spirit alive. They remember what it felt like to be out there, pushing through exhaustion, missing home, but never giving up. They know how much a simple word of encouragement can mean to someone in uniform. And when those same veterans gather together, the energy is electric. They might joke, tease, and tell stories like no time has passed, but beneath all the laughter is deep respect, a shared understanding that only those who've lived the Navy life can truly grasp. Every scar, every laugh line, Every memory, they all tell a story of service, sacrifice, and strength. Some even find peace in giving their time to the ocean again, working with marine conservation programs or helping restore old naval vessels into museums. Standing on those decks again brings back everything: the camaraderie, the pride, and the quiet power of the sea. It's like revisiting an old friend, one who never really left their heart. Their families too carry the pride. Children and grandchildren grow up hearing the stories, the long deployments, the battles won, the friendships that lasted a lifetime. That sense of duty often inspires new generations to enlist, keeping the family's Navy legacy alive. It's a cycle built on honor, love, and resilience, a tradition that refuses to die out. And somewhere, out there on the horizon, new sailors are standing watch, continuing the story that began long before them. They follow in the footsteps of those who came before, guided by the same values: honor, courage, and commitment. The ocean tests them, molds them, and ultimately makes them part of something timeless. Because in the end, being a sailor isn't just about serving your country, it's about becoming part of the ocean's story itself. It's about knowing that every wave carries whispers of those who sailed before, and that one day your own story will ride along with them, forever part of the sea's eternal song. Even after the uniforms are packed away and the medals gather a little dust, the heartbeat of the Navy never truly stops. It just moves quietly inside those who once served. Every sailor carries a piece of the ocean with them, deep in their soul. It shows in the way they face life, steady, fearless, and ready for anything. The discipline they learned on deck turns into strength that guides them long after the sea fades from view. Some find themselves chasing that same feeling of purpose they had while deployed. They take on new challenges, careers, community service, or personal missions, with the same fire they once brought to every watch shift and drill. The world beyond the Navy might move slower, but they still live with that same rhythm. Always alert, always driven, always prepared. And for many, the sea never stops calling. They find themselves back on the shore, just standing there, watching the horizon like an old friend they can't forget. The sound of crashing waves and the scent of saltwater bring back everything: the long nights, the laughter, the adrenaline, and the brotherhood. It's a connection that time can't break, no matter how many years go by. When they meet fellow sailors, that instant bond reignites. It doesn't matter if they served on the same ship or in different decades. There's an unspoken understanding there, a language only those who've lived the Navy life can speak. They swap stories that spark both laughter and tears, remembering the moments that tested them, shaped them, and defined who they became. And those memories, those real, raw memories, are what keep the Navy spirit alive. Every joke told, every photo saved, every story passed down keeps the legacy going strong. Younger sailors hear those tales and feel inspired to carry the torch, to live with the same grit and pride that built the Navy into what it is today. Many veterans say the hardest part of leaving isn't the work, it's the people. The crew becomes family. Every sailor remembers the faces they shared long nights with, the ones who lifted them up when things got tough, and the ones who made them laugh when they needed it most. Those bonds run deep, and they last a lifetime. So, even years later, when they gather for reunions or stand in silence during memorials, there's this powerful sense of unity, like they're all still part of one big ship, sailing together across time. The Navy may send them to different corners of the world, but their stories always find a way back to each other. Because the truth is, once you've lived the Navy life, you never really leave it behind. The sea becomes part of your blood, the discipline becomes part of your spirit, and the pride, oh, that pride, stays forever. It's not just a job or a title, it's an identity that never fades, no matter how far from the ocean you go. And somewhere out there, with the sun dipping low over endless waves, the Navy's next chapter is already being written, by new hands, new hearts, and the same unbreakable courage that's carried sailors across the seas for generations. The spirit of the Navy keeps rolling forward, strong, proud, and unstoppable. Every new generation of sailors steps onto those decks, knowing they're becoming part of something legendary. They walk the same paths, salute the same flags, and feel the same rush of pride that sailors have felt for centuries. It's more than just tradition, it's a living heartbeat that connects every ship, every sailor, and every story ever told on the high seas. When new recruits join, they hear stories about the ones who came before them, the legends who faced storms, battles, and endless nights at sea. Those tales aren't just history lessons, They're reminders of what it means to wear that uniform. Each story fuels their determination, pushing them to live up to the Navy's legacy of strength, loyalty, and honor. You can see it in their eyes, the hunger to prove themselves worthy of that long, proud line. And as they learn the ropes, those traditions become second nature. The salute, the drills, the commands, they're not just motions, they're connections to every sailor who's ever stood in their place. When they feel the deck shake beneath their boots or hear the captain's orders echo through the ship, they know they're part of something powerful, something that stretches far beyond the horizon. Older sailors watch these new faces with pride. They see themselves in those determined looks, those sleepless nights, those hard-earned smiles. It's a cycle that never breaks, the experienced guiding the eager, passing down lessons not just about work, but about life. Lessons in discipline, respect, courage, and resilience, the values that define a sailor long after they leave the sea. The Navy doesn't just shape careers, it shapes people. It molds them into leaders, problem solvers, and protectors, people who can handle the chaos of both the ocean and the world beyond it. That's why so many veterans continue to lead wherever they go. They carry that Navy mindset everywhere, calm in crisis, confident in command, and loyal to their team. And while ships come and go, the bond between sailors never fades. Whether it's an aircraft carrier crossing the Pacific or a destroyer patrolling near foreign shores, the spirit remains the same. Every ship is a floating city built on trust, teamwork, and grit. Every wave it cuts through carries whispers of the past, voices of sailors who came before, guiding the new ones through every mission, every challenge, every victory. As the sun sets on another day at sea, sailors gather on the deck, staring out at the horizon where the sky meets the water. It's quiet, peaceful, and powerful all at once. In that moment, they feel it. The connection, the purpose, the unspoken truth that the Navy isn't just a force, it's a family bound by courage and loyalty that time can't erase. Because at its core, the Navy's legacy isn't written in books. It's written in the hearts of those who served, in the waves they conquered, and in the generations who continue to carry that same fire across the endless sea. And that right there is the real heart of the US Navy. Courage, brotherhood, and a bond that runs deeper than the ocean itself. Every sailor, from the first day of boot camp to the last salute on deck, carries that pride forever. The sea might be rough, the nights might be long, but the Navy spirit, it never breaks, it only gets stronger. So, the next time you see that flag waving high over a ship slicing through the waves, remember the people behind it, the ones who give their all so the rest of us can live free. Their stories deserve to be heard, and their legacy deserves to live on. If you've enjoyed diving into the world of Navy life and the stories of these incredible sailors, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. More wild, powerful, and untold Navy stories are coming your way, so stay tuned and stay locked in.